Hello everyone, welcome to third video on implementing Twitter API. In this video, we'll go through Twitter API documentation and libraries which we are going to use in our project. In this video, we'll create a new project and we'll try to implement Twitter API on quite a simple and basic level. So let's get started. For going through Twitter API documentation, we'll just Google Twitter API. We'll get the link as Twitter developer documentation. We'll go and we'll check the libraries, the functions, the implementation part for Twitter API over here. Under products and services, you'll just get an overview about API. You'll get information about the implementation details for websites. You'll find information about REST APIs, streaming APIs, ads API. And under tools and support, you'll find my apps. Here you can find the list of the applications you have created, and under resources you'll find libraries and sample code. You can just download the sample code and play around. You can just browse the entire documentation and you can find information about various concepts which we can use in different ways to implement Twitter API. Now we'll try to create a simple project on our local host. First we'll create a simple PHP file and we'll try to establish communication with Twitter API, and then we'll try to send out request for data, and when we receive response we'll try to decode the response and we'll try to print the response in readable manner. You will be needing some authorization files, some API exchange files for implementing Twitter API. You can find those files under resources and Twitter libraries. So you can just download the authorization files from here, or else you can go on to the link which I have provided in the description and you can download the authorization files. So let's download. So now let's open the file. Let's extract. Here you'll find the authorization files. These are the files you'll be needing for this project. So these are the files you'll be needing for the project. So we'll just copy these files to our localhost directory, that is htdocs. We'll create a new folder here. We'll name it as simple. Let's create another folder. And paste the files here. Now let's go back a folder. Let's create a PHP file here. We'll name it as index. So now we need to import the authorization files here. For that we'll be using the PHP function require once. So let's go to the folder. Let's copy the name and paste it here. Include .php. Let's copy the name and paste it here. Now let's create an array which will hold the values for tokens and keys. So let's name it as settings. So this array will have 4 elements. Those are access token secret, consumer key and consumer secret. So let's add those elements here. Type exactly as I do. So we'll add the elements now. We won't initialize the values yet. We'll get the values from the application manager. So presently we'll just add the elements. Now consumer key. And consumer secret. Now let's get the values for our tokens and keys. We'll go to the application management, and under our application we'll go for the keys and access tokens. You'll find the consumer key here. So let's copy the key and paste it in our script. Consumer secret key. The access token. And access token secret. So now let's get to the purpose of this specific page. So in this page we'll try to retrieve list of tweets of a specific user. So basically there are two methods using which our page can interact with Twitter. So those two methods are get and post. So you'll be using get method when you want to retrieve some data from Twitter. For example, if you want to retrieve list of tweets or the number of followers or the list of followers, you'll be using get method then. And for example, if you want to send some data to Twitter, like if you want to tweet something, then you'll be using a post method. So for this example, as we want to retrieve a list of tweets, so we will be using get method. We'll create a new variable for that as a request method. So Twitter API has provided different URLs or links for a specific purpose. So you can get the entire list of the URLs from the official Twitter documentation. So you'll find that the information under reference documentation of REST APIs. So as we want to retrieve list of tweets, we'll go to get method and we'll search for the user timeline. So as you can see, get status user timeline. So we'll just go on to the link. So this is the resource URL we have to use. So let's create a new variable for that, and we'll name it as URL. And we'll just copy this resource URL and paste it in our script in single quotes. We will create one more variable for adding attribute to our request. So we'll be adding the attribute as the screen name, that is the user ID. Also we can add optional attributes like the count, that is the number of tweets you want to retrieve. So let's create a variable get field. Let's initialize the value as a screen name. I'm providing my own ID here, so that will be, and we'll provide an optional attribute as count equal to 10. Now we have created all the necessary variables to establish communication with Twitter. Now we'll try to execute a function that is a Twitter API exchange function from the file which we have imported in the require once statement. So you don't need to worry about the implementational details, you just need to call the function. Now let's create a new variable and use that variable to call the function. So we'll create the variable as Twitter. we have to pass the parameter as the array in which we have initialized our tokens and keys. So we'll pass settings. So we'll create a new variable for the response which we receive from Twitter. So let's create the variable as a response, and we'll call the function. So let's type Twitter. We'll set the get field here using the get field variable. So let's type set get field and pass the parameter as get field variable. Let's build the request with the URL and request method. So we'll type build OAUTH and we'll pass parameters as the URL and the request method. So we'll type URL and request method, and finally we'll perform the request using perform request method. And now we'll try to print the response. So we'll use the echo statement. Here setGetField method will add the attribute which we have created to the request we are planning to send, and in this build authorization method, so this method will bind the request with URL and the request method. So accordingly our request will be processed, and finally we'll perform the request. So when the request is performed successfully, the response received from Twitter will be stored in the response variable. So, and in the end we are just trying to print the response using echo statement. Now let's save this PHP file and try to run it on our local system. So as you can see, this response might seem somewhat confusing to understand. So in next video we'll try to understand this response. We'll try to simplify it. We'll try to extract the names of elements which are involved in this response, and also we'll try to print out this response in a readable manner using JSON decode function.